The talent is Drawsteel's psionic class. So if you think like Jean Grey or Martian Manhunter, they exert their will on reality with the power of their mind. And that's reflected in a couple of ways. So the main one is their heroic resource, which is clarity. So they get 1d3 clarity at the start of their turn, and they get an extra one whenever someone is, or the first time around, someone is force moved, encouraging them to sort of do that, fling people around. Their abilities let them, read thoughts, move things with their mind, and even alter time. But the unique thing about the talent and their clarity is they can spend more than they have and go into strain. So when they're strained, they take a little bit of damage at the end of each turn, or end of each of their turns, and then they also get extra strained effects on their abilities. So an AoE might have a bigger area when they're strained, but you also might find it has some kind of knockback effect on them. They might slow someone and then actually be slowed themselves at the same time. These effects can seem a bit brutal, but ultimately you're the one who decides whether you go into strain or not. And it gives you this really fun sort of push and pull risk reward mechanic in amongst the talent's abilities. It also gives you this really cool narrative thing. So a little bit of a detour here, but when I was playing the 5e talent, I remember rolling in this risk reward, seeing how well I could do. But the ultimate potential penalty was death, and it did happen that way. In this, you're unlikely to just die from using your abilities unless you burn through all your health. But there's still this sort of narrative thing of like you are getting physically weaker, like your body's having to pay for the things that your mind is doing. And I think that's just really cool, and I think that's something that adds to the vibe of the talent in a really cool way. The talent has 3 subclasses. So it has the Chronopath, which I would liken to, say, Doctor Strange, using the Eye of Agamotto to rewind time. And they get abilities such as Again, which lets them point to someone and say, roll that again. And later on they get an ability called Flashback, which lets them point to an ally, and that ally can repeat the previous action they took without having to spend any more resource. They've also got the Telekinetic. So I'm thinking characters like Magneto. You can move things with your mind, you can throw things around, you can throw people around. And their triggered action lets them sort of unleash this blast, which knocks back enemy weapons, let them take a little bit less damage. And later on they get abilities like a sort of like force choke and things like that. Jedi are actually a really great touchstone for talents in general. And then finally you have the Telepath. So again, Jean Grey. They can, speak in people's minds, do a little bit of mind control, like Professor X. But they can also, project things like awe. So that might frighten everyone in range, or it might hearten your allies. And that's their kind of vibe. They're a little bit more supporty, I would say. Overall, the class, I would say, to me, has always felt a little bit supporty, but it does have this kind of glass cannon feel as well. They're certainly not your tank, and so much as you need one in this game. But they empower their allies with edges, or they give a bit of force movement, or let them re-roll. But there's definitely kind of part of the team vibe with all the classes, but the talent in particular is one that I've found is maybe the most supporty of in the Conduit. But that's the talent.